Another video response to little Johnny capitalism. The guy defending all the standard right-wing capitalist rhetoric. The floating all boats bullshit. The tax cuts increase revenues. All that kind of nonsense. And this guy's thinking he's explaining economic theory. No, you're explaining economic propaganda. That's all you're describing. Alright, so your part 2 video was what? Mostly about, oh yeah, well this is how the system works, and okay, people employ people, and then we pay them $8 an hour because there's plenty of those people looking for work, and so then they just glean a huge profit off that $8 an hour labor that's accomplished. The productivity of that $8 becomes really $25 or $45, and then the rich capitalists get to glean that money, but somehow they earned it because they were able to exploit somebody and pay them $8 an hour because there was a surplus in labor. Human beings aren't ears of corn. Human beings aren't broccoli. Okay? Surpluses in markets you can't exploit surpluses in markets when it's human beings that are the fucking commodity, you idiot. I mean, if you can't figure that out, then you have no ethical integrity. Alright? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you have the ethical right to do it. And the capitalists have been exploiting human beings for centuries. They've been exploiting the fact that human beings over-reproduce and create surpluses and excesses that the system can't accommodate at the time. They can't grow to accommodate fast enough. And for people to take advantage of that and be proud that they somehow earned the right to basically enslave those people in a contract that people have too much desperation to refuse. I mean, the choice of living or working as a slave, what choice would you make? Most people are going to make the choice to say, well, at least if I'm alive, I'm still alive. You dumb fuck. So fuck your part 2 video. It was just an example of a sadistic motherfucking useless prick bastard. Assholes like you, I would be perfectly satisfied if you all just vaporized and disappeared from the human formula, because you don't even have enough basic character and ethics to realize that exploiting a person who has a broken leg is crap. Okay, and exploiting people for circumstances they have little control over is shit. That is crap. That is bullshit human behavior. That's the behavior of a bacteria with no brain. Alright, enough said on part 2. So part 3, you said all kinds of crazy ass bullshit stuff. Alright, first you said it was only the housing market that's the problem in the stock market. So let me explain how the stock market works, how the financial industry works. Okay, say I'm a guy, I got $150,000. Okay, I can go to a bank. I'll just buy $150,000 worth of stock in the S&P. Diversified package, makes 10% at least a year. All right, now I go to a bank and I say I'd like to get a loan. And here's my collateral. I have $150,000 in stock. And the bank says, oh cool, you got $150,000 in stock, we'll give you the money. All right, we'll charge you 5% interest on the loan. Okay, and you got to pay it back in 2 years or something, whatever the number is. So I get a loan for 5%. And now I take another $150,000 and I just reinvest it in this S&P again. So now I have $300,000 in the S&P, but now I'm paying 5% interest on one half of that money. But I'm gaining 10% or 12% gains on the money. So with that, I'm still doing better than what it's costing me to maintain that money. Theoretically, a person can do that a few times, okay? That's the formula. All right, another example. Ted Turner owns like 100 million acres of America. So every time when he buys that land, what happens to the price of that land? What happens to the price of a person who wants to buy land now? Well, now they have to compete with the fact that Ted Turner has now elevated or created an inflation in the price of land, because he's not holding it to do something with it. He's holding it as an investment. He's turned land into something, a commodity. And now he can also go to the bank and say, look, I have this much land worth this much money. Give me some money to replace where I have consumed my money. So now he can get more money at a lower interest rate than the money he can make by just buying more land, because the land will increase in value, because he has already started the acceleration in the price by buying the land. And that's what happens in the housing market. It happens in lots of industries. So it's not just the housing market, it's in the whole friggin' society. If the cost of doing business is increased, if Google forces businesses to pay money to advertise themselves instead of being rationally indexed, they have to actually pay $1 a click. Well, guess what? The consumers have to pay for that. It creates inflation in the economy because the price of business keeps going up. So as Google keeps extracting more and more profit, it's essentially a tax on every bit of commerce that takes place on the internet. These are the facts of the economy. This is the drag and the parasitic reality of allowing capital to be controlled by self-interested individuals. It's the last place you want to put. You don't want to put capital in the hands of self-interested bastards. It's completely stupid. You want to put the capital in the hands of people who are going to engineer and thoughtfully invest the money in the best interest of society, not in the best interest of their individual selves. And so, but anyway, that's how this whole thing keeps getting generated. This is fake money. The banks are lending money to money that's already been spent, but now can be used as collateral to purchase more money to benefit from an advancement in the stock market that has been created by this money that's already been used. It's already been spent once, and now they're going to spend it again in the same market. So they just keep elevating the market with borrowed money, and the borrowed money comes from the United States government printing more currency to satisfy the perception of growth, but the growth is built on borrowed money. So that's the scenario. That's the dam. That's the water that builds up over time. And so you can get away with that for decade after decade playing that game. But just that happened in 1929, it will come to an end. The game will friggin' end, and you'll have to go back to the real value, the real bottom collateral that you have recollateralized 15,000 times. And all that shit, all the cards that are built on the one valuable thing that you started with, the house of cards built on that is going to get knocked down. And if we live in a society that's stupid enough, what will happen is the rich who own those house of cards will try to find a way to extract enough blood from the poor to cement those cards, so they get to keep their house of cards. They will use the blood of workers to secure and glue together their fake and felonious palaces of bullshit. And that's what's going to happen in this world. If people are stupid enough to let the rich control it, they are going to use human beings as mortar to keep their house of cards a reality. And that's the evil here. The rich are going to destroy this economy. The rich are going to throw this civilization into the Stone Age because they're going to try to keep that house of cards. All right, so we'll move on to, here's another issue. You talk about the market as if there's some real risk and real reward, but it's phony, it's fake, because they don't pay for the real risk part. The worst somebody investing in the stock market can do is lose their investment. They have no liability for the fact that they own a company that, let's say, goes bankrupt. Who pays the bill when they go bankrupt? All right, who pays? All right, the consumer pays, because now all the creditors are only get half their money or a quarter of their money. They get fucked. So that becomes part of the price of doing business, is the liabilities of this thing called bankruptcy. So why do you have that system where people can invest in a company, but they don't have to take any responsibility for the downside, negative impact of what that company does? If they're going to support the company, they should be liable for the real effect. So if the company kills, 80,000 people in India or some other bullshit with their irresponsibility, those shareholders should be responsible for that bill. They invested in a company that did the evil. They are the owners of the motherfucking company. They shouldn't be allowed to say, no, I'm just a stockholder. No, you're a fucking owner. You are advancing the purposes and mission of that company. You should be responsible for it. There should be no such thing as bankruptcy for a motherfucking company. No such thing. The owners should have to pay the liability. They should owe the money. All right, and I'd make the same argument with inheritance. Let's see you justify. It's bad enough to even justify the whole concept of nepotism being part of social policy. But even beyond that, why can people inherit the positive side, and why can't they inherit the downside? So if somebody gets into preposterous debt, okay, because of their bad acts, Why shouldn't their children be liable for it? If their children can gain the benefits of the risk, why can't they inherit the liabilities of the risk, the real part of the risk, the kernel of the risk? No, we have a society that's paying that bullshit bill. Society should not be paying for what you're calling risk-taking. If society is building the net, then society should have control over what the dance is up there and how the people gain from it. The rich can't control that and expect society to be holding the net. That's bullshit.